Welcome, everybody, to Podcast on a Poll for October 1997. I'm Cab Manning. I'm from the Lingus Mafia podcast. All of my nonsense is at Lingus Mafia. I am joined by Mr. Billy Body. All of his nonsense is at lockbetting.com and at Billy K100, BILLIK100 on Twitter. What's happening, Mr. Billy Body?
This show is still going to happen.
This show, like, we're turning the car on and it take a while to warm up and it comes on. We finally get it done. And now we're doing our, I guess this show would be called Podcast on a Back to the Monday Night Wars poll. Because it's going to evolve into that then.
Yeah, it's going to evolve into it. But at the moment, we still have plenty of Vince Russo stuff that we can use. We have a whole load of interviews. I actually found the superstar profiles he was better at because he seemed like for 20 minutes to 30 minutes, he would be able to talk about a person and remember stuff about a person. And those were actually better than when he was on the show, when it was a case of remembering storylines and dates things happen and who was feuding with who. Dementia just...
I have no doubt that he would have been able to tell us more stories had he watched the show the month as we watch the month, because what he's doing now on his own is he's watching them and doing the show. So, and he's saying, wow, I'm remembering this, that, and the other thing. So if that were the case, I'm sure there would have been a lot more to dig into. But
so to put that into perspective, he had a deal with me where I was going to do content and he was going to do content back for me. He then delayed it and he started making excuses, which turned into him only being available for 1 hour a month to do once a month, and me then doing the 6 hours. So he compensated me with pay, right? Then he phoned it in on our show, and he was terrible. You guys heard it for like 9 months, right? So we finally get the answer that, guys, I just don't remember anything. I just hate talking about my career. I hate talking about myself. I hate talking about myself. And then as soon as we get done with it, he then decides to go and talk about himself because he realizes that this show was successful, at least at the beginning, where there was a list of podcasts posted by Conrad and Eric Bischoff this week, and I was looking at it and how we were beating some of those shows. And just on the outside of that top 10, remember when we started week 1, we entered at 12. And so I said, like, we get to the top 10.
Yeah.
But we didn't, because people aren't going to listen to any old shit where someone's not trying.
Well, and I had an interview with him, with Vince Russo just the other week on my podcast, Lingus Mafia. And I do ask him about, now you're doing the show. And why is he doing the show? And we will be putting that into this show so people could hear why he decided to do it and why he hates talking about his career and me telling him, but that's what makes you famous. Why would you push away from that? And then I also ask him about stuff that happened this month, because I've always wanted to know something about Brian Pillman and the storyline that was happening. So you'll hear his answer to that. So let's get into what you want to say.
Yeah, just a couple of bits. So if you're watching this on video, it's not going to be the full show because we have a lot of audio to add in, including a bit that I did with Disco Inferno this week. You have Vince Russo's interview, superstar profile being added to the show. You have Vince's interview with Cav as well. So there's loads of bits being added on to the podcast version of this. So if you listen to the podcast version, it benefits you. And just to also say, this was never supposed to be about Vince Russo's career. This was supposed to be how the show is today. It's supposed to be a minute by minute or an hour by hour recollection of the wars, Raw versus Nitro, where the third passenger who had to add more perspective was supposed to be Vince Russo. This is what it was always supposed to be. It turned into Vince's career perspective because that seemed like the most logical thing to do based on the fact that he was giving us such a small commitment. But yeah, today, the show you hear today will be a lot more closer to the original show we wanted to do with Vince as just the third person.
So he was the third guy. Okay. So we're going to get into the first Sunday of this month of October of 97 is In Your House Bad Blood. And you will recall this was the free-for-all that started off the show where Vince McMahon announces that Brian Pillman has died. When the show starts, as the nation is in the ring, they say, as we reported earlier, Brian Pillman has passed away. It sounds so fake. And I rewatched this, and they don't have the free-for-all on there, right? So I was like, I remember it, and I have the videotapes of it. But from watching the regular show, this is how it went. It started with them saying, as we reported, Brian Pillman passed away. It sounds fake. And to be honest, JR goes on to talk about Shamrock. They ignore it. They just move on. Like after it's announced that he's dead, they move on to Shamrock. And it's odd, but we'll find out things the next night as we get there. Since there's no back and forth here, Billy, I could run down the pay-per-view, and you want to chime in if there's something you want to say about it. Shall we do it that way?
Sure.
First match is supposed to be a 6-man, but Farouk killed Shamrock the week earlier. So LOD says, we'll just do 2 versus 3, and it'll be Kama and D'Lo and The Rock. Bad guys win. Farouk shows up and distracts Animal. That's how they get the win. Vince is back to say that we'll have this is where we would have had the Pillman match, but he's dead. So here's some midgets instead. Pillman's dead, so here's what we got instead for you. Here's the minis. And then you're like, oh, this is the spot that Pillman was supposed to be here, but he's dead. This is a mess. The ref counts 3 when there's a kick out, and they're just like, fuck it. Fuck this show. And just get this match out of here. They give Sunny something to do. She's the ring announcer for the tag team titles. And it's with the Headbangers and the Godwins with TL Hopper, as you know, now as Uncle Cletus. And we get new tag team champs, the Godwins. They take it off the Headbangers that fast. WWE does a whole honoring of St. Louis with St. Louis wrestlers. They all come to the ring one by one, which is odd too. And it's because they do this at another time where they have all Oklahoma people come to the ring when they're in Oklahoma. And you're like, okay, what is this? IC title tournament that is going on because this is when Austin had to give up the belt because his broken neck. And this is the finals, and it's Farouk versus Owen. And if you recall, Austin wants Owen to win this because he wants to get his hands on Owen when he does. So Austin hits Farouk with the title. So that's the whole, what's going on? Why is Austin helping? Where it's pretty obvious. DOA versus the Bariquas. Nobody cares. DOA wins. There's a flag match and a new stip that you could win by pinfall or submission. This is a flag match, but you could win by pinfall or submission. Why is it? What is this?
Is this the first time anything on a pole has actually come on? No, we had another flag match.
We've had another flag, yeah. Patriot and Vader versus Brett and Bulldog. A fan jumps in the ring during this, that's the best part about this match. Brett wins clean. Well, trunks are pulled, but it's not that dirty. It's a roll up on the Patriot. And like I said, I don't know why this is a flag match because it's a pinfall. And that's how they win the flag match. Hell in a Cell. This is the main event this was the first Hell in a Cell, and everybody absolutely loved. And me and Billy still giggle because I even write this in the notes later of what happens during this match. You'll remember, Billy. Great way to get out of the cell, though, by the way. They killed a cameraman, and they really beat the piss out of him. Like, Michael stomps his head. It's bad. And he's got to get out of the ring, so they have to open the door to help him get out. So Shawn gets out with Undertaker, and, they climb up there and everything. And Ross takes a shot at Macho Man during this match because when HBK jumps off the rope with an elbow, he goes, I never saw anyone in the WWE do an elbow better off the top rope. It's like, oof, what a punch in the face. This is when the cameraman is holding the camera up to the ceiling of the cage and blood drips down on the cameraman's face and on the camera itself. And they left it in. It's still there. He says shit because he's getting dripped on. So that's in there. Kane, this is the debut of Kane. He comes out, rips the door off the hinges, gets in there, and that's got to be Kane. I can't believe, who is this? It's got to be. And it's pretty cool. He rips off and away we go with Kane, and he does the fire thing with Undertaker, drops it, doesn't know where the camera is, though, to do the tombstone. If you notice, he's spinning around different directions, then finally sees it.
Yeah, it's not a great tombstone either.
No, he goes down, drops him. Michaels gets the pin. Michaels got a big gash on his forehead all the way across. And that is the end of your pay-per-view. So going into the next night on Raw, Billy, I will tell you what starts it off for mine. And this is on the 6th. And it is the bell tolling for Pillman. Everybody's on stage. Everyone looks in shock. And then it is time for the bell to toll. Do you recall this as you were growing up watching this?
Yeah, I recall it all. It was very weird. And we'd never seen it before. We didn't do this for Andre. And I think that was the only majorly significant death before that. There may have been others. I know Tornado died. Kerry Von Erich died, but he wasn't big in WWE like Tornado. So yeah, I mean, this was the first time where a death had been acknowledged. First time, obviously, a performer's in the middle of...
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's just died. And obviously, this is a performer that I like now, but I liked him then as well. Like I was looking for Pillman toys, Pillman T-shirt. I was looking forward to this signing that never reached its potential. And we're obviously about to get into an era where, had he been healthy, he would have thrived in it, which is what
big time.
We asked that question to Russo before.
And he thought he could be champ, he said. In the beginning of the show, right off the bat, they go to that, in-ring stuff. And this is where HBK and Triple H show the tape of Madison Square Garden where they all hugged. And they actually brought this out because everybody already knew about it. But then they showed the curtain call and they do the whole... Wait a minute, you're a bad guy. I'm a good guy. What? Wait a minute, he was a bad guy. What are we doing in the same ring? So that was a good moment. I remember when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, they're acknowledging it, which was really out there for them to do because they were so, against this. Hart Foundation shows up and to show you the different times, Bret Hart calls them homos. So I know what the H in Triple H and HBK stand for. It stands for homo. So that goes on. Mark Marrow has a return after this. He's now a boxer all of a sudden. He has to have a return from his knee surgery. And then my first clip for you.
Is he still a face? He's still a face. He hasn't turned yet. He's not jealous of Sable yet, is he?
Not yet, but he's not doing anything babyface at all. He's straightforward. He was, all right, we know him from before. There's nothing else that we know about him at this point. He's not talking. Sable takes off his robe. That's all we get. My first clip for you here is this is when all my clips are going to be from Jim Cornette from this show for you guys because they were so good. Jim Cornette would do those commentaries where he would give his opinion and it was about stuff that they never talked about. It was about NWO. It was about WCW. One was about Phil Mushnick later on. It was, and nobody could ramble like Cornette. And he was hot.
They still can't.
No, he's good. And he gets in there and he goes. So here's the first one you're going to hear about where he talks about WCW and Eric Bischoff. So what's going on with your stuff in WCW on this show?
So we're at the first hour still, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a cutoff for the first hour. So what I have going up against that, by the way, you don't have Melanie Pillman in your first hour. No? She comes in the second hour.
No.
Okay. So we open up here with hour number 1 opens up with Bischoff and Hogan. This happens a lot throughout the course of this month, as you'll hear from me as we go through it. Booker T then goes over Jarrett when he's distracted by Mongo. So we're in the middle of the Mongo Jeff Jarrett feud here. Booker T is with Miss Jacqueline because let's put all black people together. We see a commercial for Halloween Havoc where it's going to be Hogan and Piper in a cage. That's where we're up to at the moment. In a match that Jim Ross did not enjoy. You remember the episode of Livewire where he's with Russo. Someone calls him up and he buries Piper and Hogan for being in the match.
Yeah, and you know what? Later on, I give you a clip later that is Cornette going over icons. Who's the new icon? Who's the icon that can still go this and that? And he rips into Hogan and he rips into Roddy Piper.
Right. Alex Wright takes on Billy Kidman. So you can see how everything is NWO and then it's got these other bits to cool it down. And then they'll try and get, normally they try and get NWO in as much as they can. So it's surprising here to see so much going on without NWO involved. I got three, 4 matches here. During this match, we go to picture on picture because they're focusing on the Deborah and Mongo thing, because obviously they think they got something there. They're arguing. She ends up slapping Mongo, saying she doesn't want to be with him anymore. This helps break up the match because nothing's going on in the ring with Alex Wright and Billy Kidman. Alex Wright ends up winning when we go back to it, which ends a losing streak. Next, we get the Nitro Girls, and then we go to a commercial where there's a competition to see if you can have the Nitro Girls over at your party. What they should have done was aired these parties and how awkward they would have been with the Virgins and the Nitro Girls, but they never did. They just kept advertising the competition.
They could apply the oxy to the guys' faces.
Ernest Miller gets a win over Mortis. This isn't actually a bad match. One thing I wrote here is that I find it weird how Mortis was just a wrestler who had like great ring movement, and he wore a mask. Like, he had really cool presentation before the match started. Like,
yeah,
it was all the spooky shit, but none of the spooky shit transferred over. It wasn't like Undertaker, Kane, Bray Wyatt. He just became a wrestler. He was
a guy in a mask.
He was a guy. He had a great like spooky entrance and everything. Like, he was a spooky character. But when he wrestled, he sold. He did loads of moves, but he sold. He sold everything. He didn't have any super resilience, and he lost a lot. So yeah, this was very odd. Like, the presentation didn't match the in-ring. The in-ring was great, but just the losing part and the selling part was weird. They showed footage from last week where Larry Sabisco cost Scott Hall a match to Hector Garza, which is shades of like 1, 2, 3 Kid, who is ironically walking out with him in the next segment. Hall cuts a promo on Luger and Zabisco before he gets his win back on Garza. After the match, Hall and Six spray paint a Z on the referee.
A Z for the people in America.
A Z, yeah. After Hall gives the ref a torture rack. So we're up to my second hour now.
Okay. And like you have NWO every 5 minutes, I have Austin every 5 minutes. Now, Austin has to either show a doctor's note or sign a WWE is not responsible for injury document. Austin says he'll sign it as long as he gets an IC title shot. Vince says, okay, no problem. Austin says, no, I'm not going to shake your hand. I need it in writing. And I said, I guess this is for them stalling time. Like, because now it's going to go on days or weeks, right? That's what I'm figuring at the time. And that's what I write down. Farouk shows up on the Titantron and says, you think you're tough because you have a bald head and tattoos on each arm? And I'm like, what? Austin doesn't have any tattoos on his But that's what he says. You think you're tough because you got a bald head and tattoos on each arm? This is Farouk. But it's, Farouk is pissed off because he cost him the Intercontinental title. So that's what's going on here. Hawk is getting an Intercontinental title match against Owen Hart. That's bizarre. That's like a next match. I said, okay, I don't understand why.
This is the thing with the USA and Canada does open up the doors to make these combinations. They don't have to be feuding. It just has to be an American.
So here is where we get into the next hour. Melanie Pillman. This is worth talking about by itself for a whole show if you wanted to. I don't know how this even happened that she came on the show. I mean, we've watched the Dark Side of the Ring, and I guess she was still in shock, she said, and, was hoping to still be taken care of by WWF at the time and, be in good standings with them. She was hot as hell, too. I thought she was great looking back in the day.
In the day.
Oh, thank you. Because now I go, what the hell happened? And I mean, Vince says to her, how have you thought about how you're going to support your 5 kids? Vince is insane. This is the most brutal. I mean, how could you say that to somebody where she's probably like panicked about that and hoping they're helping? And he's like, wow, so what are you going to do for money now? So that doesn't happen. And then there's a tribute to, and now here's a tribute video for Brian Pillman after I've just, destroyed his wife.
It should have been the start of the Pillman McMahon feud. Like, if he should have. This is the part where
It's where people thought it was fake because it was so crazy.
That's it. I was going to have Meltzer on the show, which Conan was going to hook up, but
oh my God, I'd pay for that.
But it ended up, I think he was looking for my accounts and things, doing his like due diligence, and probably saw something. And it was literally, I don't usually attack Meltzer,
like he doesn't know who you are.
But it was actually one of the only weeks I'd actually retweeted something where I said, this guy's lost all credibility. Do you remember the clip where he'd done a whole 20 minutes about how AEW won and how it was a better product when they beat WWE.
It was that weird demographic in a certain time or something.
30 minutes on a demo when they were on FX1. And it was like, this guy's completely lost all of his credibility. That was the week.
Did Conan tell you something like that? That, oh, he looked up something and he doesn't want to do it now?
He said he'll get Meltzer, no problem. And then he texted me, said he's decided to pass. I was like,
really?
Well, yeah.
I need to give you information that can get him. Remind me to talk to you about it afterwards. Remind me. I could get him for you if Conan says certain things. That's all. Okay. After this is you get the Hardy Boys versus the lights go out and Kane shows up. And it's odd to me that they didn't get the music right with the explosions. Like he comes out before the boom when he walks out. Like later in the years they did it right, where his music hits and then boom, everything explodes and he walks out. They would do it wrong. It was during the whole organ in the beginning. He walks out. It's like, what do you guys? How do you not get that right? He comes, he kills them. He's chokeslamming them on the steel ramps and all that kind of stuff. And then you're gonna get Triple H versus Hitman, non-title. HBK shows up, and this is where he puts the Canadian flag in his nose. This is what you always see that clip from. Anvil and Owen show up. Somebody throws a paper airplane in the ring that says China is a man. That lands in the ring perfectly. And the crowd cheered. They go, oh, they love it when it happens. Super kick from outside the ring to Brett, and it's a count out. And that is how your show ends with Raw.
Yeah, so my last hour, we get a video package from this new guy called Goldberg. He's 2-0 at this point. And the story here is clearly, what does Goldberg have to hide? Because at the moment, it's like, why doesn't he talk? What is he hiding? So I wonder if the story was ever like, did he kill someone? Has he got what's his secret? Which is really interesting because they actually go completely away from that within this month. So they stopped saying it. Our friend Disco's up next. He's defending his TV title against DDP. DDP wins by DQ when Savage interferes. So-and-so wins by DQ is a sentence you're going to hear a lot on this show. Savage tries to pile drive Page on the concrete, and he gets diamond cutted instead. The NWO are like furious. They're having a go at
a pile driver turned into a diamond cutter.
Yeah, because the referees like stop him from doing a pile driver. And then Page gets his wits about him and diamond cutters him. So the NW come out. Elizabeth coming out. She's trying to cry. This is her peak, I think. This is peak Liz with this hair and these big
and the implants. Yeah.
Yeah, but her acting's horrendous. She's trying to cry while they're out there.
Well, she's always had that crying acting.
Yeah. Well, they're just out there having a go at the paramedics and everything.
We had Jake slap her in the face. Come on.
Up next, we have more NWO when Hogan comes out to confront Piper. We've got a clip here of this. So I wanted to have this confrontation on it because this is decent between these two.
Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, there is your clip, Billy.
Okay, so after that, Hogan starts beating up Piper, and Bischoff kicks his knee. But Piper went after Bischoff kicks his knee. Sorry, Piper makes a comeback, and the NWO pull Hogan out and rescue him. So that's your NWO segment there because we hadn't seen him since the top of the show. So yeah, they got them in again here. Eddie Guerrero beats Ultimo Dragon. This is a decent match, but to me, it's still crazy how much people overrate Eddie Guerrero. I still
overrate him.
Oh, yeah. I think
you don't think he was that great? I mean, I don't think he was as good then as he got when he came over. I think he was great when he came over.
I think there's always this element of when people die and they die young.
Sure.
You kind of sort of elevate their
Yeah.
body of work to a higher stratosphere. I feel like if he has continued to live, or if he was wrestling even now, or he could be wrestling now, or he could be, just retired a few years ago, or he could be an AW like everybody else. I don't think we would be looking at this in the same light. But yeah, I mean, this is a fine match. He wins it. Next, we have Benoit Kurt Hennig for the US title. Perfect wins clean. They're trying to build him here as a wrestler's wrestler thing, where he's defending the belt every week. You'll see him on the show every week. The NWO come out afterwards and they start beating up Benoit. Ric Flair makes the save. Kurt Hennig does a runner. Remember, feuding with Hennig is Flair because of the guillotine, where NWO shoved his head in the door of the cage.
Yeah, I don't even know how they did that. It looked like he slammed the door on his goddamn head. Wasn't there a show talking about that? Like, that he really fucked him up? But this is for when he got a facelift. This was the go away to get a facelift.
Right. So this is the thing. So they're in the real feud here. So he's coming after Hennig. Hennig does a runner. The show ends with Flair cutting a promo on the NWO, Hennig, and Hogan. And that's the end of my show.
Okay. Going on to October 13th is the show starts off for me with a big history package of the Legion of Doom. And it's a big thing, their history as a team. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then they
got you winning the belts tonight.
They say they are either winning the tag belts or they are retiring. So the whole night there is packages of them and them talking normal, having interviews sitting down without their face paint and how they grew up. And it's a big lead in. So you're like, okay, well, they've got to win these titles by the end of the night here because they've been dicking them over for a long time now, losing, always losing.
I got a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
When you get to the end, actually, when they're actually winning the belts at the end, I got the question.
Okay. This is the birth of DX officially. The Hart Foundation talks in the ring. No Bulldog because they say it's his anniversary and his birthday, so he gets the day off. I guess, what is it, school or something? They're like, oh, your birthday, you don't come into work today. That's fine. And his anniversary. Why would he get married on his birthday? What is he, a moron?
I think he was actually in England. No, hold on. What month is this? October.
It's October.
Oh no. Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense then. Because I thought, the month before he was in England.
Should look up. Is his birthday October 13th? So HBK, they're on the Titantron, and Hart Foundation Hitman, they're calling them degenerates. And he goes, I guess we're a bunch of degenerates. That's what we are. Degeneration X. That's what our name is. So it turns into that. We get Kama during the Kama versus Owen match. DX they commentate, and this is where they're eating bananas sitting at the desk. Everyone sees that clip all the time. And I'm wondering now, watching back, do you think this is to mess with the nation that they're eating bananas? It totally is, because obviously we know what happens in the locker room in the next show.
Yeah, I think that they're really pushing the line here. That's why when we were talking about this on the other YouTube show we did today, we were saying like how there is some genius to this, but there's also like you're pushing the envelope out further than the other side are, and nobody's ever seen this stuff in wrestling. So there is some genius to it, but at the same time, you're deciding to play this card because once you've seen all this, it doesn't work again. Because the Attitude Era, it's always defined as 97 to 2001, but they did a lot of other stuff, with Katie Vick and all that stuff. This still continued for another 8 years, where they stayed at this controversial level with Edge and the live sex show and slapping Cena's dad and all these mental breakdowns. They did keep this going. Like, they still tried to be controversial for the next 8 years or so. I think it was 8 years, yeah. But yeah, it didn't quite hit as hard and hit you as hard over the head. It's the first few years where they did it, because this was really like, Jesus, what the fuck happened to wrestling? You're kind of seeing it here.
Yeah. So here, this is interesting because I have my book of notes, Billy. This is the original of me writing down every match when I recorded it on VHS, right? This is my book. So I look in this book and then I see what's on TV at the same time on Peacock and see what is gone from Peacock. There is something that is not here, and it's a clip from Shotgun Saturday Night where Jesse James asks Rockabilly to team up. They don't have this in here. They take this completely out because out of nowhere, eventually we're going to get them coming out as a tag team. And you're like, where'd this come from? Flash Funk, he's supposed to have a match. Kane shows up. Flash Funk is supposed to go against HBK. Where you go, well, if this is nowadays in AEW against Punk, it'd go for 20 minutes against Flash Funk.
Exactly.
So Kane shows up, kills Flash Funk. HBK shows up, just does the pin. LOD then talks about the fans. Like I said, they have these clips in there. Oh, the fans are great at Wembley, yada yada. And then here is interesting because it is 8-Ball and Skull versus Sniper and Recon. However, the Commandant is all of a sudden gone, and the Jackal is there now, as you well know, as Don Callis. So I'm like, where'd this come from? He's just here now with the Truth Commission with this. Okay, so now this is going into hour number 2, so you can go ahead.
Okay, so guess what I open with? Hogan
NWO?
Hogan and Bischoff, but they're joined by
because what do you think my second hour starts with?
Austin.
I've got
Hogan Bischoff. They're joined by Savage wearing a neck brace because he got diamond cutted on the floor last week. Bischoff encourages fans to take in posters to Raw of Hogan's new movie.
My God.
Hogan's
so good.
He's got a movie on TNT, so apparently he's taking over Hollywood. He turns his attention to Piper.
On TNT. Not even in the real movies.
No, but it's smart the way they do it because apparently, and I haven't actually seen this because I can't access it, but the contract for Sting and Hogan gets signed on the night of the movie premiere. So the movie is the day after Nitro, and that's where they confirm Sting Hogan. We'll talk about that later. Okay. They turn their attention to Piper because he's the commissioner, and they're having a go at him here for Savage getting cutted on the floor. Piper's also in possession of Hogan's world title. In between Piper responding, Eddie Guerrero beats Psychosis. Still good. Eddie's still overrated. Commissioner.
Tell me Eddie's overrated when he fought Angle and when he fought Mysterio at WrestleMania. Fantastic matches.
The Mania match isn't that great.
Oh, you're crazy.
So Commissioner Piper responds to Bischoff by refusing to apologize to Savage and refusing to give Hogan's belt back, just saying he's the boss. Mongo gets a win over William Regal. After the match, they interview Deborah and they announce randomly out of the blue that Jarrett is no longer with the company. So he just left this feud in the middle and he's going to be showing up on your show soon. So I've got a clip here. Just listen to how bizarre this is and how they just dropped this in. Like, oh, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's just to combat him, because they know he's going to show up over there. So they don't want it to be a surprise. They're like, F your surprise. We'll tell everyone he's going.
Yeah, you're in the middle of a storyline. Like Mongo and Jarrett is the feud, and he's not on TV, and he's not coming back. It's just weird that they let a contract get down to this point where they didn't just have Mongo beat Jarrett the week before. Instead, they had Jarrett losing to, was it Booker T, wasn't it? So, I don't know why you just didn't do it there. Maybe it's the losing to Booker T that was the thing that did it. Do you know what's really weird? When Hogan walks out of WCW and Russo does that whole thing where he goes, you're a selfish, bald son of a bitch and all that.
Yeah.
His main event is Booker T and Jeff Jarrett. I just realized that. And that was some second match on the show last week. Meant nothing.
And the belt was falling apart that they used.
After this Mongo stuff, we get Yuji Nagata beating Chris Jericho via tap out. Jericho on the WWE Network is coming out to the Walls of Jericho music still.
Yes, that's the greatest. That is the greatest.
It's fucking stupid. The mystery man, they're calling him now. Bill Goldberg moves to 4-0. So they're getting away from the what's his secret, who did he kill thing. And hour 2, I'll just say what I'm about to say. Hour 2 begins with NWO. It's Hall and Six this time. They're saying that Hall, Six, and Nash are the Wolf. The commentators are saying Hall, Nash, and Six, are the Wolf Pack. They call them the Wolf Pack. And that any 2 of the 3 can defend the titles under Wolf Pack rules. Hall cuts a promo again on Luger and Zbyszko again, and is actually pelted by a drink and paper. They both hit him right in the head. He gets hit with a drink, he just wipes it away. and a ball of paper hits him in the face. It's like crazy aim. So they're about to have their tag match against the Steiners, but I'll pass back to you for hour 2 of Raw.
I don't remember them having Wolfpack rules. I'm surprised. I don't remember that's that whole Freebird thing, but I don't remember that ever happening over there. So Austin now has to sign this contract. And I was like, shit, he's actually going to sign this contract over here now. I go, is he already coming back? I forgot when he was coming back from this neck injury. He has to sign the non-libel for, him being hurt. And he signs it, and he is back for Survivor Series on November 9th. That is when he will be back. And he gets Owen Hart in that match. The Nation shows up after, and Rocky says he wants Austin. And he runs to the ring and then is stunned and just dropped. And it's very funny to see this because it's like Rocky's just a piece of trash that Austin stuns, just get the fuck away from me. Meanwhile, we go, this is going to be Mania a couple times coming up. LOD talking in their normal voices, talking about winning the titles or going home. And they even go into, well, we aren't like Hogan and Macho Man relying on our yesteryears. We want to, be relevant today and win some titles. Like, eek. Okay. LOD, they're talking about Wembley, as we said, all that kind of stuff. And of course we get laser tag. We can't forget that. LOD also goes on about their origin. We get light heavyweight matches, and it's Tajiri is in there. This is one of the first times we see Tajiri. He's in there a couple times, and he goes against Brian Christopher. And it's funny because Tajiri comes out to some weird hillbilly music, and he says the King says Brian knows nothing about martial arts. He says, get this line. This is one of the best lines I've ever heard. He goes, he thinks judo is what bagels are made from. Think of it. Is that the greatest line ever? I go, oh my God. Judo. Okay. Oh, wow. I'm shocked it's even still on the network, to tell you the truth. Cornette does another rant, this time on Phil Mushnick. Here you go. I remember listening to these, and I remember reading TV Guide where Phil Mushnick would talk shit about wrestlers and wrestling, and, that this shouldn't be on TV, and he got me hot. He pissed me off, and I see him on this Dark Side of the Ring stuff now, this Phil Mushnick, and I want to kill him still. I hate that motherfucker. He's on his high horse. Wrestling fans are garbage, which I understand him saying that now. But it's all that stuff of how high and mighty, and this is lowbrow TV. And they had a big hard on for him, and they gave out here right to Phil Mushnick here, and they would give his address and everything like that. Goldust versus Savio Vega. They say Goldust and Marlena didn't renew their vows last week out of respect for Pillman. I'm like, you're keeping this storyline, but saying that, and I'm like, out of respect for Pillman, as he was banging Marlena, as he would say all the time over there. So then they go into Hogan having an awful movie, and they start talking about Hogan having bad movies, and there's nothing more. There's only one thing more painful than him acting is his wrestling. That's what Vince is saying. Like, Vince is really laying into Hogan here. HBK and Triple H in the ring, and the Patriot is supposed to fight, but Rude throws coffee in his face before the fight. Slaughter says that you're going to have to fight, and it's Ahmed Johnson, who doesn't even get to the ring before the Nation of Domination jumps him and kills him. And to finish off the night, you're going to get LOD versus the Godwins for the titles. LOD, they win this. They win the titles, and then they kill Cletus afterwards, like it was his fault, because he uses his lucky horseshoe and hits the wrong people and all that stuff. But they beat the shit out of him where they break his nose, and blood is pouring out of his nose as he's laying on the mat. So they just beat the shit out of him. And I'm like, well, Uncle Cletus was there for how long? And he's done. Okay, very good. What did you had something to say about the LOD stuff?
So they don't win with a Doomsday Device, do they? They win with
No, because remember they
because
broke his neck before.
Do you think that was? I was going to say that. That was my question. Do you think that they said, "All right, we'll face you, we'll lose, but we ain't ever fucking
never
going up there taking
Yeah.
that again.
I think that was 100%. I'm never taking that shit again. And I think LD said, "All right, no problem. What could you say? You broke the guy's neck."
We should ask Russo.
I don't know if he'll remember that though.
Oh, I know he won't remember that.
Well, as he says on my interview with him, I didn't write the Attitude Era. I don't know. So I'm like, when should we put that interview in here anyway? At the end?
Okay,
at the end of the month?
I'm looking at already. We're halfway. We're just about halfway through, and we still got Disco's bit to add and that interview as well. So, release it. Put it on at the end of this show, and then and this month also you're going to get a bonus. The superstar profile I was going to add on to the show. You're going to get it released separately in a couple of days.
Okay, so because this show will be very long, I'm sure. Anyway, with all that other stuff thrown in there, it's going to be a long show.
So you're going to get Russo at the end, and you're going to get a Russo bonus show where he's talking about the beginning part of working with Shawn Michaels. So Shawn Michaels' career up until this point, you're going to hit Russo on the superstar profile. That's going to be a separate show that we release because this show is looking like it's going to be a long one. So I'm just moving on to my second hour of October 13th. And I was at the point where Hall and Six are now going to defend the tag titles. Well, they lose the titles, and I wasn't sure this is going to stand. The finish comes here when Hall pulls the referee out as the ref's going to count 3.
Mm-hmm.
But then Zbyszko makes Hall backpedal to the ring. He gets bulldogged by the Steiners, and now Hall is getting pinned, and Six is getting pinned again. Zbyszko makes the count. So they start celebrating, but they go away from the celebration after 10 seconds. They're only celebrating for 10 seconds. They go straight back to the announcers, which makes me think this isn't going to be real. The announcers claim that Zbyszko is an official in WCW, so he's got an official's license. So that decision is going to stand. I still don't believe it. We'll see what happens. Malenko beat Mysterio when Eddie snuck in. He took Ray's mask off, so Ray's just covering his mask, covering his face while Eddie's got his mask, and just lets himself get put in a cloverleaf because he's holding his face. So it's like, so it's actually quite a clever finish. I probably didn't do it justice. He's actually clever because he can't move his hands away, so he's just trying to, he's just got his legs he's on his back, so he gets put in a cloverleaf. There's a weird DDP video is featured in a package from the power plant, where he says he likes going back to his roots and he remembers his roots, unlike Savage and Hogan, pretentious. Piper then comes out and he said it's time to talk about the tag title change, and he confirms the tag title change is real, which he can do because he's a commissioner. Bischoff comes out with Savage saying they want the tag belts back and they want Hogan's belt back because Piper's got that and the Steiners have got the tag belts. Piper's supported by Sting. But it's not Sting. It's clearly not Sting. It's a fake Sting. He does a turn on Piper. The Sting is actually revealed to be Hogan. It's Hogan dressed up as Sting. The NWO beat up Piper, and Bischoff and Hogan are laughing into the camera. So up next after that, there's a lot of heavy doses of NWO all over this. We get Scott Norton and Big Boss Man, or Big Bubba Rogers, which ends up being a 2-week feud. Bubba Rogers loses when the NWO interfere. Disco retains his title against Alex Wright, despite Jacqueline trying to interfere on Alex Wright's behalf. They confirm that Disco Inferno and Jacqueline are having a match, but it's not for his TV title at Halloween Havoc. And we actually have Disco talking about that later on in the show when we get to Halloween Havoc. In the main event, this is very, very confusing. This is a major botch. Paige appears to beat Kurt Hennig for the US title. The finish is a mess. Flair comes down to ringside, and he obviously comes down too late because the ref counts 3 when Paige has Hennig in the roll-up. So what was supposed to happen was when he saw Flair getting into the ring, when Paige had the roll-up, he was supposed to just ring the bell because Flair's in the ring while DDP's got him pinned. But he starts to count, and he gets to the full 3 because Flair's like way behind. So DDP genuinely wins the belt. Piper comes down to talk to the ref and DDP, but the NWO come down to the ring and they attack DDP and Piper. Savage keeps hitting elbow after elbow on DDP, and Hogan is whipping Piper with the weight belt. So we don't know where the title is now what happened. But, it looks like DDP won. Suddenly, a bunch of stings emerge from the crowd. There's loads of stings, like 2 stings from the crowd, 2 stings from another part of the crowd, 3 stings down the aisle. All of these stings, like, talking about 20 stings, they all get beaten by the NWO. Eventually, one of the stings in there no-sells a punch from Bagwell. And they focus on this one because it's the real Sting. He hits a Scorpion Death Drop, and they all run out of the ring. So they beat up 20 Stings, but they realized the one real Sting had got into the ring, and they all run for him, the entire NWO. So, Sting's standing alone now with Piper. Piper during the show, I mean, he's had more beatings than a fucking ISIS housewife. So he's three times he came out and got beaten up. So, that's my October 13th.
Jesus Christ. So on to October 20th. This is a very interesting something that happens in this show. So the main thing that goes down here, like they have opening match, big tag match, who cares? It's LOD, Ahmed Johnson, Shamrock versus Nation of Domination. So this is like cut to death because this is where they're on, and DX is on stage holding up different signs, and this is not on Peacock. And then the Nation of Domination's locker room is completely trashed with KFC stuff on the walls, watermelon spray painted on the walls, everything racist known to man destroyed in the Nation's locker room, right? But we don't know any of it. If you're watching Peacock, you have no clue what the hell happened, because Nation comes out screaming at Vince and saying, we've been disgraced and this, and like, you're kind of hearing them go, oh, their locker room was trash, but you don't ever see it because, God forbid, they show this on Peacock. Vince says a former WCW champion will be in the ring here tonight in the WWF ring.
That's the guy I just lost, right?
Yes, that's the guy you lost. See, because they screwed everybody by telling them. Farouk's at the announce table yelling about how his locker room was violated with racist graffiti, and the Hearts did it. Because I love that, like, Sean and them would spray paint, screw USA, go Canada, and stuff like that on the wall, and leave their flags there. Stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this and let you know who did it. Farouk versus Brett. And because this is he wants Brett because he thinks this is what happened. The Hearts and the Nation all fight. Austin shows up and stuns Farouk, so Brett wins this. And then we get Jeff Jarrett in the ring. And we've always heard these podcasts with Jeff Jarrett going on with his promo. And they're thinking it was a good promo, but I think it was just it was a bad promo. He was trying to be hot with his shooting and talking shit on Bischoff and all that kind of stuff and ripping on Hogan. And at the time, I was interested in it, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if I find it terrible now, because I remember this. Yeah. And I remember like going, Jesus Christ, like Jeff Jarrett's going to be big now, like because of the promo.
I would like you to actually listen to it again, because I think time didn't help it. And then he goes into the Austin 316. This is sacrilegious, and we know how Austin then.
And can you imagine Russo was here, and we'd be like, "Bro, Vince, tell us about this promo. Like, what was the story behind this? Were you involved in it? I don't remember anything about it. I can't remember this promo. What promo was that?
What year is this? So it's title for title, and it's HBK versus Owen. Then of course everybody's getting involved here as usual, but then we have this is Jim Cornette talking about icons, as I told you earlier. So this is pretty much what is going on with this week completely. They get into the whole history with Owen and HBK, but we already have this storyline going on with Austin and Owen. So there's not going to be any title change, but that's your first hour.
Yeah. October 20th, the show begins with NWO like the jobbers and the NWO, the guys that have that different music. They're all laid out. They're all laid out backstage, and there's T-shirts for DDP and Piper, like all lying around, and some Sting bat and a Sting bat as well, like which is supposed to be evidence. So everything points to those three taking out these members of the NWO, showing that WCW are getting their momentum. For a change, Hogan and Bischoff open the show. Savage is with them again. It's just unbelievable. 3 weeks in a row. They call out DDP, Sting, and Piper, and obviously they don't get a response because they need to come out again later on again to do exactly the same thing again, which is literally to call them out again. We get Eddie versus Benoit here. It's I've written dead match, but it's actually decent. Oh, I get what I did. Dead match. All right. This is I honestly have written dead match, but like I realized that I was trying to make a joke and it just confused me in the notes. This is a better match than what we are seeing from anything in the WWE over on Raw in '97. But again, like nothing special where you look at it and go, oh, these are the best two workers ever, or two of the top 5 guys, or top 10, whatever people think. Eddie wins clean and he defends his belt. I noticed that Benoit is losing a lot at the moment, and he's losing clean. Lost to Hennig last week, a couple of weeks ago. So I'm wondering if there's heat on him at this point, if it's just the time where he's stealing Sullivan's wife. So I wonder about that because he's losing clean. Wrath comes in. He has like a 7-minute entrance, and Goldberg beats him in less than a minute. They've definitely moved away from what's his secret. Mongo, who isn't facing Jarrett now, actually confronts Goldberg. So obviously they're going to get to a match here. Mongo, unfortunately, takes a lot longer to beat Mortis. This is a match that fucking goes on forever. This is a point where I'd be looking at what you're watching on Raw, which is why it's very interesting to do this comparative show, because you just did your bit. So we can work out where Raw was at the 40 to 45 minute mark here, because I'm watching Mongo trying to work a long fucking match here with Mortis. After he wins, Deborah comes out to wind up Mongo and teasing who he faces next Sunday, which I can tell you is someone terrible. The stipulation is if Mongo wins, Deborah is out of WCW. I'm not sure if she's a good heel or if she's unbearable, but in a really bad way, like go away, unbearable. Not in a way where she's got loads of heat. Rey Mysterio beats Disco Inferno via DQ when Eddie interferes. After the match, we see Jackie attacking Disco from behind. Eddie versus Rey on Sunday, which is this Sunday, is going to be mask versus title. And I'm at hour number 2. So I'll let you finish off. And I'll get back to my second hour and my pay-per-view.
So when I was leaving off was, as it was starting off, it was that title for title HBK. And it was the European title against Owen Hart for the IC title, but Brett and Austin show up during it. So that ends it. Undertaker has to talk about...
And that's your top of the hour. That's not your main event.
No, that's not the main event. No.
Okay.
To tell you the truth, there is no real main event. It's and I'll tell you why when we get to it. Undertaker talks about Kane.
Can you imagine this back in the day? Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah.
We've got so while you've got Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels, I've got Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, and Savage back in the ring, and they're saying nobody's leaving the arena, lock the doors until Piper, DDP, and Savage come in. I mean, that is a fucking proper competition of a war. It's like, Jesus Christ, like fucking Hogan and Bischoff and Savage are back out there, and they're calling out DDP, Sting, and Page, and Sting. It's hot at the moment. And on the other side, you got Owen and Shawn having a match at the top of the hour. Like, this is a proper war. That sort of signifies it with the two comparisons there. But there's loads of those throughout.
Undertaker, this is like the first time he's talking about Kane now. And he's in the back, and I'll never fight my brother. That's this whole thing. This is every week. I'll never fight my brother until WrestleMania. I'll never fight my brother. Dude Love is out there, and he's waiting for a match, and Kane shows up. Kane kills him. He choke slams him on the ramp. Now, you say, okay, well, which way is he choke slam him, right? On the up slant or the down slant? first on the up, and you go, okay, well, he's less to go down, right? Your head's up top. You're going to go ass downward. Then he picks him up and does it again and does it the reverse way. So now it's head to the ground further down, which is brutal to see. The New Age Outlaws show up for their first time, and they're not the New Age Outlaws. They come out there talking shit, and Billy's in some weird blue suit, and they go against the Headbangers. We get a clip of Hitman on Mad TV from when he was on, and he was doing his rounds, of course. Light heavyweight match, we have Tajiri versus Taka this time. We get some more Cornette doing commentary, but this is like him reading letters, so it's not as a good one because it's a lot of letters that were written to Phil Mushnick. The Godwins and the DOA and the Truth Commission, they're all fight each other. And then to end this show, because it's like, well, that's no main event. In the boiler room is Mankind. And now, because he had just gotten killed as Dude Love. So now it's, oh my God, Mankind's back. And he's going to try to get revenge to kill Kane. So at least you would think, okay, now we're going to have more of an even fight here. We're going to get Mankind versus Kane. So that's how they ended off with that show.
Yeah, so as I was saying, my hour 2 starts with Hogan, Bischoff, Savage saying they're locking the doors. Nobody's leaving. After that, we get Hennig beating Malenko, defending the US title. So the belt he clearly lost last week in a botch. They've decided just to ignore that. The 3 count didn't happen. They're saying that the finish was a DQ. So we waited an entire week to find out who the US champion is. It's Kurt Hennig. He beats Dean Malenko. So they're still continuing to do that thing where he's the US champion. So yeah, go watch that if you guys have a chance, because that's a big botch on October the 13th because he was supposed to keep the belt. Scott Norton beats Bossman Ray Traylor again in his the rematch no one wanted. Bossman actually fights back at the end of the match, but all the NWO take him out. Luger beats Booker T in a good guy versus good guy match. Booker taps in the rack. After the match, Luger cuts a promo on Hall. He actually gets interrupted by Larry Zbyszko, and he's saying he's calling Luger and Hall right down the middle, which is confusing. Luger's just like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. It's not a good segment. Scott Hall beats Scott Steiner with a ref bump here where Hall nails the ref. Hall then hits the razor's edge, and a black referee in a mask comes down and counts 3. So, they're now saying, oh, we've got our own referees too and everything. It was up there with the tag belts last week. Again, not a good finish, not that creative. Unbelievably, we have Hogan, Bischoff, and Savage coming out for the 3rd time. So they opened the show, they came out in the middle, and now they're out doing the same thing they did at the top and middle, saying they want fucking DDP, Piper, and Sting to come out. And they end up getting attacked by 2 Stings, and they are actually Piper and DDP dressed as Sting, so you don't get Sting. So it's not a great ending to the show, but again, at this point...
Yeah, they both had shit endings. Well, what the fuck?
But I see that's the go-home ending for Halloween Havoc, but I don't know at this point whether you're just happy because, these guys are so over and you just want to see them every week. I don't remember the time completely as to how I would feel about these finishes. I just know I loved everything, but yeah, I mean, just even with that Jarrett thing will be a good example of how time ages things and if things hold up. Pay-per-view starts slow. We got 2 matches here that weren't advertised. Yuji Nagata.
One thing real quick before you get into the pay-per-view. There was one note I had for the debut of Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. And this is another one I'm shocked that was left in. They go to the commentary booth and they're screaming at the commentators. And old Road Dogg goes to JR, to Vince. He goes, "You're a freak. You're a freak." And King goes, "What about me?" And he goes, "And you're a faggot." I'm like, whoa. And King's like, "What?" And he's like, "You still owe me money from Memphis." And he left. That was it. But straight out screams, "You're a faggot." And they kept that in on Peacock, though.
Wow. All right.
Go ahead.
They probably just miss stuff. They probably know the big stuff they're looking for.
I guarantee they miss stuff.
They know all the big stuff they're looking for, like with with the main event guys. They probably missed this shit.
They're like,
all
get rid of that locker room scene where they spray painted watermelon on the wall.
Yeah, get rid of Austin in the main event of WrestleMania 17, saying, I can't keep this motherfucker down.
Is that gone? Shit.
Which adds to like the whole drama of the fucking match. At Halloween Havoc here, we got Yuji Nagata defeats Ultimo Dragon in the opener. So they're opening with stuff which the matches are decent, but like they're not advertised, so no one cares. Jericho beats someone called Gato. Then we get the first decent match. Rey Mysterio defeats Eddie Guerrero to win the title. It's a great match, especially by the modern day standards. Like, obviously, this would have been looked at as, it doesn't hold up now because every match is this long and and this many 2 counts. But back in the day, this would have definitely been one of the matches of the year. Alex Wright is the surprise for Deborah. He beats Steve McMichael. But the big surprise is Goldberg interferes. Deborah distracts the ref, and Goldberg hits his whole move set, and the referee doesn't hear anything.
And he's jumping up and down in the ring too, right? From the slams. And
he steals the Super Bowl ring. So I'm confused if this is a fucking heel turn or not. We know it isn't, but this is definitely heelish behavior because Deborah was going to...
I remember that.
He keeps Deborah in the company. He helps Alex Wright. And he costs Mongo the babyface and steals from him the Super Bowl ring.
Really think that they were going to make him bad and then realized we shouldn't do that. Because you're right. It's 100% bad guy shit.
Yeah, he steals a ring because he was a failure in the NFL himself and didn't win one. So,
and he was on the Falcons.
Then we get the man versus woman match here between Disco and Jacqueline. Jacqueline wins. And this is where we get to play our audio where we speak to Disco, where I speak to Disco about the match.
So it is an interesting story that he does tell.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're watching this on video,
you're like, "What's going on?" Because we just pause. That's why you got to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, listen to the podcast to get all that stuff put in. WCW United States Heavyweight Title match. Kurt Hennig defeats Ric Flair via DQ to retain the title. Hennig came out in Flair's robe with the sleeves cut off because he's stolen his robe. Flair sprints to the ring. He gets on top. He puts his robe back on. Hennig then takes control of the match, slows it down. Match ends when Ric Flair just puts the belt over his head and kicks it. This is a pay-per-view finish. I mean, the commentators are saying he never cared about the belt.
See, we can't just look back at these times and say, "Oh, the good old days," because there was plenty of disaster.
No, and I put that in my notes. It's like the entire bill, they're saying he doesn't care about the belt. So when we talk about shit at the moment where they're going, "Oh, they buried this belt, they buried that belt, don't care about the US belt, don't care about the IC belt," this shit begins in a Monday Night Raws because it starts with Russo, and then it's the counter booking that goes against that. But I mean, this is before Russo's relevant. If Russo ever, to the point where we were talking about him, you can clearly see he wasn't a head writer. So WCW are the first here to devalue their belts. And then obviously when we get into the Russo time in the Attitude Era, we got hardcore belt changes and all sorts of people winning the IC belt. Yeah, these things really get watered down. But yeah, this is not really great where Ric Flair doesn't give a fuck about it. But at the same time, at least you can excuse it where he says, "I just want to fight Hennig," but then just say it's non-title. Just say it's a fight, and just one guy is just the US champion. Don't actually say, "Oh, he doesn't care about the belt," and have that as an actual line in the commentary. JJ Dillon has a confrontation with Bischoff. Dillon is out there because during the show we have this story where Hogan and Bischoff are saying they're not going to wrestle tonight because it's not a safe work environment. JJ Dillon produces some piece of paperwork to say he has to wrestle, and it's just nonsense that they added through the show for no reason, where these guys are saying they're not going to wrestle, they don't feel safe, and JJ Dillon says you're contracted to wrestle, and they do it anyway. So it's very, very odd. Just like this whole Hogan Piper match is odd. Before we get to that, Luger goes to a no contest with Scott Hall, with Larry Zbyszko as the referee. Hall wins the match with an outsider's edge after interference from 6. Zbyszko is like confused. He wants to see a replay, and then when he sees the replays, he sees 6 interfering. So wrestling's very inconsistent with its whole, there is no instant replay in wrestling, but there is sometimes because we've had one. We didn't have one at the '97 Royal Rumble. Remember when Austin won? But we do have one here. So they restart the match. Zbyszko pushes Hall into the torture rack, and Hall is about to tap out. Just as he's tapping out, Zbyszko's about to ring the bell. But because he doesn't officially get to ring the bell, because Six nails him, that means that it's a no contest. So we get the tap, but we don't get the bell ring. So it's a no contest. Are you following this?
Yes.
Right. It's very complicated. So after the match, Six, Hall, and Bischoff come out and they attack Luger and Zbyszko. Eric hits one of his karate kicks and he gets a pin on Larry Zbyszko, which is counted by Hall. So everybody is feuding Larry Zbyszko, and I didn't understand this because to me, Larry Zbyszko wasn't anybody.
Me too.
Maybe he was to like the people before. Maybe it's like us where we have our heroes, and maybe Scott Hall.
I mean, he made it to the Hall of Fame, so he must have done something before this.
Well, I know he worked with Bruno Sammartino, but I wonder here if like Scott Hall was saying, I want to do something with Larry Zbyszko. I don't know. Randy Savage defeats Diamond Dallas Page in a last man standing match. This is the type of match I like. I thought this was the best match of the night. Other people would say Mysterio, Guerrero, but I mean, if you get two decent matches in the Monday Night War era, that to me is a pretty decent pay-per-view. Savage comes out in some cool ring gear, sponsored by Slim Jim, and you expect that because it's Slim Jim Halloween Havoc. By them. The fight goes all over the building with Kimberly and Liz even getting involved. Like Kimberly and Liz are just pulling each other's hair, and they have this hair pulling battle all the way to the back. Savage.
That's your girlfriend, Kimberly.
Oh, I do both these two, but yeah, Kimberly's my favorite, apart from Sunny. Savage is hitting elbow after elbow, but Page keeps getting up before the 10 count. This is called a Las Vegas sudden death match, but it's a last man standing match, is by way of the rules. The ref takes a bump after Page hits the cutter. The ref takes a bump and then Page hits the cutter. The ref recovers, but Savage obviously has enough time to recover as well. So the story is that Page would have won had the ref been awake. The finish comes when a fake sting. They fucking keep doing this finish with a fake sting. Hits Page with a bat to the back of the head while Savage is distracting the ref. Given this is a last man standing match and it's no disqualification, you didn't need to distract him and have Sting come out there. You could have just had this fake Sting come out there. But the whole fake Sting thing is a lazy finish. It devalues what is the best match of the night. But Savage gets the win when this distraction from the fake Sting, hitting him with the ball bat, and then the referee just says, "Oh, how did he get on the floor? Why is he not?" Anyway,
he just knocked down, I guess.
As I said, though, it doesn't matter because it's no DQ. Steel cage match, awful. Piper beats Hollywood Hogan. This is awful. Piper wins a bad
non-title.
It's non-title because this is what I want to ask Eric Bischoff. If we ever had him back on, why was Larry Zbyszko wrestling Scott Hall? And why the fuck did every time Roddy Piper faced Hulk Hogan, Hogan lost and it wasn't for the title? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, is Piper still not losing to Hogan in 1997? That seems crazy to me. It's a bad match. Hogan and Savage beat the shit out of Piper after the match. However, this is more notable due to the fact that a fan manages to get to the cage and climb the entire thing and get in. He gets in. Anyway, these two beat the shit out of the fan. And that's the only reason you need to watch.
Imagine, and they're in a cage too. So Jesus Christ.
Oh, Savage and Hogan beat the crap out of him until the refs stopped them. So that's the only reason you need to watch this match. So that's Halloween Havoc. And we are up to October the 27th, which is the last pay-per-view of the month. Over to you.
So what I have here is I'm reading from my book, because I'm like, where did half my notes disappear on my iPad? So I got to read you what I have written down in the book, which doesn't have the results. I just have all the matches written down here, and I'll tell you any little notes that are in here too, because I do have a note in here. Oh, it's Nation of Domination being interviewed, and the Hearts and DX show up, right? So after this is Goldust versus Triple H, and HBK's on commentary, and I even write a note on the book that Shawn Michaels, after the match is over, what he yells to Vince, he says, The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and D-Generation X want you to suck it. And he gives him the suck it sign. And I remember Vince getting so pissy. And he goes, get out of here, disgust. And you with a smile on your face. He's all disgusted by them being juvenile. Which at the same time, watching them do all this DX stuff, it is really annoying as shit. I'm like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh man, I'm fucking annoyed.
What about
it's not even the fun annoying. Then I loved it.
Right.
Yeah, I was way into it, but I'm like, fuck, it's almost over the top where it's very obnoxious and they're doing their job, I guess. And for older people to watch, I guess they get upset by it. This is where they do those Oklahoma legends. Remember, I told you this. Danny Hodge walks to the ring. The Briscoes are there. And I'm like, everybody's coming to the ring to get a little plaque. And Sonny's there to hug everybody, of course. Ahmed Johnson versus Owen Hart for the IC title. Austin shows up, so that way Owen will keep the belt. Karate Fighter tournament. Do we really care? Mankind has an interview, and Slaughter shows up. I don't know what happens, though. Hitman and Shamrock do a promo because now it's going to be Shamrock versus Hitman for the WWF title. So HBK has to show up to stop that because you can't have Survivor Series coming up and have him lose the belt beforehand. Outlaws versus...
Maybe you should have done that.
You know what? Yeah. And like he said, I'll lose to Undertaker, whoever you want. Vince, nah, fuck that. We're going to fuck you. Outlaws versus the new Blackjacks, if you remember that. The Godwins and the Headbangers show up to jump in the middle of this match, which is very interesting to me. That you can go ahead. That's the first half here for you.
Yeah, so my show opens up with, who do you think?
NWO.
But who particularly?
Oh, Hogan and Bischoff.
Yeah, Hogan and Bischoff. Bischoff says, and still WCW champion. Like the belt was even on the line last night. This is because they falsely made out as a title match, and they falsely now making out that Hogan won. As I said, probably because they couldn't get Piper to agree to lose in '97. New Cruiserweight champion Rey Mysterio gets a win over Dean Malenko. Decent match.
This is when Rey Mysterio was hot to the touch, too, man.
Yeah,
everyone loved Rey Mysterio.
You expect him to win, and you expect him to be decent. He's won the belt last night. Rey catches him in a package when he's going for a cloverleaf. This was good because the move before this, Rey Mysterio's coming off for the the setup for the sunset flip and gets power bombed out of the sunset flip, which looks really good from the springboard into the power bomb, and then he goes for the cloverleaf but gets small package. Glacier beats La Parka. This is a nothing match. We get back to talking segments here as DDP is calling out Hogan to answer Hogan's open challenge. We then see Zbyszko calling out Scott Hall. So we got back-to-back talking segments. DDP is just out there talking to Hogan. He goes out, and then Zbyszko comes out and he calls out Hall. I don't know why Hall is feuding Zbyszko. Again, as I said, it's something I want to talk to Eric about. And I don't know why we're getting back-to-back talking segments here, because that's not normally how you lay things out. You don't normally get one guy talking in the ring and another guy talking in the ring. By the way, this is a 3-hour Nitro, Nitro that's just thrown out there for nowhere. So I'm not sure exactly where my hours end, so I'll just end halfway through. Luger beats Stevie Ray in a match here. Eddie Guerrero beats Jericho. This is very much a jobbing babyface 97 version of Jericho who wins, a quarter of his matches. We then see Benoit beating Finlay, physical match, wins with a diving headbutt. And then we get Flair cut a promo on Hogan, Hennig, and Savage, who he's facing later on in the night. I imagine this Flair promo is probably the top of one of my hours, so I'll let you finish.
We get a light heavyweight video of all the new cruiser light heavyweights in there, and Taka signed a contract the week prior that he is now official. Remember, they wanted the Great Sasaki, but it was Taka who stole the show, and he stuck around. The other one left. Kane interview in the ring. Well, not Kane, but with Paul Bearer. And it's, we're not going to stop until, we kill you, Undertaker, until Undertaker accepts our challenge, which, as we know, it keeps on going. DX is in the locker room giving an interview. Do you remember this, where they would hold up cards and signs because they had a lot of, I'd rather be in China type signs, and they had a big DX sign. And Sean dropped his pants and was jumping up and down halfway, with a bare ass jumping over the sign. So you would see him mooning a little bit. That's where this was from. They ended up putting that, I think, in the entrance video too for them. Flash Funk versus Mark Marrow being a boxer now. And we get a sit-down interview, a special Jeff Jarrett interview, where he just pretty much talks about, how he was screwed over in WCW and just keeps on venting. Los Boricuas versus LOD. The Outlaws are on commentary because they're pushing them. LOD titles are on the line, but you know how this is going to go. LOD wins. And then to end it, Ahmed Johnson tries to speak the English language and is screaming in the back about that he's going to get Austin because Austin interfered when it came to the IC title and, helped Owen win. So he's angry at Austin. And which in real life, didn't we hear that? Didn't Ahmed think that Austin did like racist stuff? Like he blames him for doing some racist thing, like writing the N-word somewhere or something. This isn't some interviews where it's like, what in the world? But I've been listening to some interviews lately about Ahmed Johnson and everybody shitting on him, which is funny to me because the majority of the people shit on Warrior. They shit on Ahmed Johnson. Who else they shit on? But when we asked Bischoff, when we asked Russo, those were the people that he never had a problem with and he liked. And he was like, yeah, because they never kissed ass, so people didn't like them. So, and that is the end of my Raw. And that is the end of the month for me.
Okay, so I'm up to, I think, the top of hour 2, but I could be a little bit further down than that. So we see we're past the point where Flair cuts the promo. Then we see Raven's Nitro in-ring debut. And Stevie Richards interrupts and says, Raven's not going to wrestle unless it's Raven's rules, which is a no DQ match, because he still doesn't have a contract with WCW. He still hasn't agreed to a contract. So Scotty Riggs.
This annoyed the hell out of me all the time, where he's beating the shit out of fucking Stevie Richards standing at ringside, in the crowd.
The opponent here, Riggs, agrees to this. So Raven then comes in and tries to tell Riggs that the match is pointless. He's a loser. He hasn't won a match in 6 months. He can come join him instead. Riggs refuses. Raven then injures Riggs' eye, which is why he wears the eye patch.
Yeah.
They drop toe hold onto the chair. That's how he injures the.
Yes. Which I always wonder. He didn't have the chair upside down though, right?
No, he just had it like on the floor.
Regular chair.
He just sold that like that's how he hit the chair.
Mm-hmm.
DDP and Hulk Hogan now is next. This gets a long time, probably because this is a 3-hour show. This is definitely, I think, the start of hour number 2, or the start of hour number 3, or the end of hour number 2. It's the main event of hour number 2. The match ends when a fake Sting comes out.
Man, oh man! Every week the fake Sting.
DDP sees him off, but the NWO rush to ring, and they beat up DDP. The real Sting comes from the crowd and makes the save. And the crowd, they go batshit for it. So, I mean, everything's working here, even though it doesn't look overly creative here in 2021. Goldberg is meant to face Disco for the television title at the start of hour 3. But Alex Wright comes down to attack Goldberg. Goldberg kills him, and he kills Disco before the match starts. Then Mongo comes down, and they have a pull-apart brawl between him and Goldberg. Hogan comes and says, so Goldberg's not going to be a heel now, I don't think. Obviously, we know he's not, but it's out of the blue here with this booking. So I think still they're trying to work this out week by week. Hogan comes and says that he's going to sign and face Sting at the movie premiere on TNT. The movie is called Assault on Devil's Island, and I now want to watch this thing. I want to see if it's on like Apple TV.
I remember that.
Or wherever. I've never seen it because it's being heavily promoted. And to get people to fucking watch this shit, they're going to do the contract signing of Sting and Hogan on Tuesday during the premiere. I don't know
if it's like when they
had. I don't know if it's going to like cut the film in half and go, okay, so halfway through the film, they're going to sign a contract, then we go back to the film. I don't know how this was done. I'm interested.
Well, I mean, remember we had the Robin Hood thing where they had the Giant versus Hogan, right? Yeah, and it was what, 2 minutes, 3-minute match, but they stretched it out with 3 commercials or something to make it look like it was longer. I mean, listen, it was horrible, but I sat there like an asshole and waited for it like a moron. So, and that's the end of everything, right? That is the end of our. Go ahead.
No, I still got another hour or half
Oh,
an hour.
geez. Okay, yeah.
We got Steiner's beating Public Enemy. Hennig beats Booker T, or sorry, faces Booker T in his weekly title defense. Doesn't win. Match ends when Liz and Savage come out for no reason. They hit an elbow on Booker T while the ref is distracted. And as Hennig's going to make a pin, again, referee doesn't hear a sound. Flair comes down, stops the pinfall. So we do get a DQ. Hennig does win. It's not a standard clean title defense that he's been getting clean wins with. But yeah, he does win by DQ. Immediately, because they're already out there, we go straight into Flair versus Savage from WrestleMania 8. After the break, they come back. These guys are brawling in the crowd. That's why they start the match. The match ends in a DQ when Hennig, who just had a match, comes out and interferes, which is not very creative. Like, because you got the match before ending because Flair comes out and Savage comes out and interferes. And then when Flair and Savage have their match, Hennig goes to the back, gets a massage, gets some ice, comes back, he interferes immediately again. So all of this is pretty pointless and filler. It's weird that you don't end with Hogan and Sting. At least the announcement here, you have Hogan and DDP having a match, and you have Sting making the save. And then you have the announcement that tomorrow night you're going to have Hogan and Sting contract signing during the movie. But your ending here is kind of weird. It's just like Ric Flair being beaten up by Kurt Hennig and Randy Savage. So it doesn't really mean anything. I assume the placement of things, where they place things, were done more to hurt Raw, and this third hour was independent and unchallenged. So where you have Sting coming out and the crowd going batshit, I imagine that was going up against what you had at the end of Raw. So.
And that is October in a nutshell. My God, that's a lot of shit. And the show is insanely long for people. Remember, they complained, "Hey, you can't have this show once a month and only be an hour." Well, your wish has been granted. Because now what we're going to play for everybody is when I asked Vince Russo about the plans for Pillman if he did not die, what was supposed to happen that next day on Raw when Marlena and Goldust were supposed to get married. So we'll leave you with that, and we will see you next month for November for the Screw Job. So go check out everything we have. You want to go to lockbetting.com. You want to go to @LingusMafia. Where else do they want to go, Billy? They want to go to thedirtysheets.com as well and get into that. So there you are. You're back. You're back. So I was saying to everybody, where do they want to go, Billy? Where's their best places to go other than what we have already told them?
Yeah. So just obviously, if you're already listening to this, then you know Podcasts and Polls on iTunes. You're already a subscriber. My wrestling news is on the dirtysheets.com. If you want to get it immediately, if you want to get it for free, just head Keep It 100. Keep It 100 YouTube channel is where we do our news show every Friday. We do it on Thursday. It comes out on Friday because we've already recorded it. Today we're doing it on Thursday. We've already recorded it and broken the story about the releases and about how a lot of them were down to vaccine status. That is now like emerging on Twitter. And I think even the New York Times are saying that. So it's unfortunate because we had that story today and it won't come out till tomorrow. But yeah, all the news is first on Keep It 100. All the news first on the dirtysheets.com, and then we talk about it at the end of the week on Keep It 100. For all of my betting stuff, it's lockbetting.com. I have 101 months of profit. That's all I really need to say. For over 8 years, I haven't had a single losing month in sports betting. Everything is tracked and transparent. My other Twitter account, my gambling Twitter account, is @SGP Soccer. And the pin tweet is always the last month's profit and loss sheet. And so if you look at that now, you'll see the month of September, which will be soon changed for the month of October. And yeah, that's lockbetting.com. What else? My wrestling Twitter is at Billy K100. Yeah, that's it.
And at tweets on a poll for this show. And I'm having a contest on my show, and you can get all the information pretty much at Lingus Mafia, but it's at patreon.com/Lingus Mafia. And one of the prizes I'm giving away is a signed 8x10 of Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, signed by both. That's first place. But there is 26 prizes on there to win. So tune in over there at the Dirty Sheets or at Lingus Mafia on iTunes, and you'll hear all that information. So for Mr. Billy Body, I'm Cav Manning, and we'll see you monthly.